a warm welcome to everybody. We really appreciate you coming, and especially a big thank you to those who've come from far away like the U.S., far away like Cape Town, Hermanus, Pretoria, the East Rand, very far away places. But thank you all for making the time to come here to celebrate Tim's life with us. So that's the point of today. We're here to celebrate Tim's life together as a group. And the first thing we need to remember is that he said he didn't want us to cry for him. So the first thing we may have to do is disrespect that wish of his, because we're going to cry for him, and that's just what it is. But in favor of this deeper, more abiding wish that he had, which was for love, light, and laughter during his illness, but also following his death. Those of you who came to visit knew that that's exactly what he wanted. He said over and over again, love, light, and laughter. I don't want tears. So we've all had a special, unique relationship with Tim over the years, and I want you all to know that my heart goes out to each and every one of you. I know that you're missing him every day in your own way. And I'd like to share with you what that time has been like for me, just briefly. I've just been on the most amazing journey of grief and gratitude and grace. Since Tim moved, especially into that state of pain-free peace. But I've been in a state of grief really even since before his diagnosis in April. In February, I knew there was something seriously wrong. But particularly, I've been in that state of grace since that Tuesday where he died, where we had that most extraordinary opportunity to celebrate his life with him when he was still in the room. He was with us. So the grief and the gratitude have entwined with each other. The grief emerging and bringing with it new memories, and those memories give me the opportunity to be grateful. And both the grief and the gratitude are then enabled by that state of grace which Tim's last 2 days unlocked. So, where's Nigel? When Tim and I met Nigel as part of our marriage prep, Nigel asked Tim and me to reflect on and jot down a few words about what made each of us grateful for the other. And I kept coming back to one single realization, and I think it was probably the cancer journey that made it so clear for me, that I was grateful that Tim had given me the gift of being able to love him unconditionally, which was a profound revelation for me. I'd already felt loved unconditionally by him, but to realize he'd unlocked that love in my heart took me by surprise. The next surprise was the grief also opened up gratitude for what's perhaps less expected. One of my biggest gratitudes is that, maybe oddly to some of you here, the cancer journey has actually really helped Tim to truly know his own worthfulness. When we first started Tim's News, the WhatsApp group that so many of you were part of, which was a way of sharing what was happening on Tim's cancer journey, which I'll confess I started selfishly at the beginning because I thought, how am I going to type out the same message 50, 100 times? Let's just do it once into a group. But Tim was truly and deeply puzzled and disbelieving that so many people would express such deep and sincere love and support for him, perhaps after years and years of not feeling worthful. So he asked, why me? He was genuinely baffled at this outpouring of positivity towards him when he himself often felt inadequate and unspecial. So our answer was, because they love you. So one of the gifts that this cancer journey gave him was that by the end, Tim was able to accept and bask in this love and support and no longer question why him. And so for this, I'm eternally grateful. Now, a few people here are now going to speak to how they saw and experienced Tim's worthfulness, at least in some of the dimensions which made up the complex person we knew simply as Tim, Monsieur, or Dad. But Tim was much more than that, as you know. We're going to hear from a longtime colleague and client, someone who helped make Tim's vision of our home a reality, someone who Tim helped achieve his vision of becoming a scientist, kind of. And what I found really amazing about that realization was, in many ways, that echoed his own dad's, Otto's experience with another person who some of you know and have heard of, Solly, with outstanding promise, but also less advantages during his own younger years. And then finally, one of our neighbors. We have wonderful neighbors here. Thank you all neighbors, Matisians, for coming to celebrate with us. But we've asked Chris to speak on behalf of our neighbors. And all of this is really about together these people being able to speak to Tim's worthfulness, and in celebration of the gentle, kind, and loving person that he was. So, with the spirit of love and light and laughter buoying us, I'm now going to invite Nigel to shepherd us through the formal proceedings today. Thanks.
Right. Well, good afternoon. Lovely that we are all here, and I'm actually quite astounded. Lindsay, so many people have come into this moment. What are you looking for, Lindsay?
I'm looking for that folder because otherwise Norman doesn't have anything to read.
Right. I cannot help you. Right, we'll speak out into the yonder and ask the folder to appear.
Yes.
All right. So, just as an opening comment, first of all, to say to you that your presence here is exceptionally, exceptionally valuable. And every single one of your presentations of your being in this moment, to celebrate Tim's life, to see him, but also to help each and everybody else who's here. I'm kind of more in the arena that Lindsay was speaking about when she was saying we might just have to disobey Tim slightly. If there are tears, there are tears. And that's really good. But in that context of love and in the context of light and then enjoying that laughter. Essentially what I'm saying is we've got this huge spectrum of possible experience this afternoon. And we want to make room for every possibility of that experience. In other words, we want to create the most respectful and most honoring space, first and foremost for Tim. We want to be able to open ourselves up and to really see him. We want to engage from our core, and we want to validate his worth. We want to feel it. And the story that we're going to share with each other is going to be exceptionally helpful. There's an incredible value in having us all together in this moment because we kind of rest on each other's experience and we lean on each other for support and for memory and for enjoyment and for that family camaraderie, unified feel that we need in this moment so that we can together honor him in this communal family space. But at the very, very same time, each and every single one of us is at a very unique place. And that's as it really should be. And we want to make room for that too. We want to honor the fact, Lindsay, all of us, starting with you, Emma, Wes, starting with you guys, your connect with him needs to be honored and validated and given room so that if you need to grieve in this moment, you can do that. And each and every other one of us as an extension to you. And so we want to make allowance for the fact that we're going to enjoy the communal feel and the story, but we're going to have a moment or two, and it won't be drawn out and difficult, but there will be a moment or two where we can actually go quiet, where we can connect for ourselves, where we can personally and specifically see, and when we can very individually say, yes, Thank you, Tim. Deep respect, deep honor. And even maybe take it to that point when or if you are ready, on one or other level, whichever level works or is available to you this afternoon, where you can actually remember and then let go. So there might be room for you to let go this afternoon. The very big picture that we're looking for is to respect the fact that my view is Tim is no longer constricted by what we as human beings are constricted by. Whatever that next realm is about, I'm not sure. But he is not constricted. I believe he has much more freedom to see, to feel, to celebrate, to acknowledge, and to express the creativity that is uniquely his. And I believe in the spirit of that, while we still have our feet on the ground and our selves in these bodies, that this experience helps us to enter deeper into our own ability to express that unique wonder of who you are, that creativity, that beauty. And I believe that moments like this are exceptionally helpful. In one of our chats, Lindsay, I remember us acknowledging the fact that in times leading up to our passing and in times where we experience someone who has or is in that moment, or then as we move beyond that, the veil is thinnest in those times. And when I say the veil, I mean that things that block the awareness and consciousness of what really is, things that stop us from deeply engaging with the wonder and the beauty of being. The veil is thinnest in these moments, and therefore we have a wonderful possible experience this afternoon to shift and to continue our journey, to grieve well as we continue going, and to become richer in memory of, but also in honoring our own journey. So thank you for letting me say those introductory words, and if that's an introduction, wow. But I will try to keep things short. I'm very aware that we've got lots of story this afternoon, and I'm not entirely sure the best format to introduce it and to keep it going, because I'm the one who doesn't know everybody here. I only know Lindsay, Emma, and Wes, and just recently met Danny. Lovely connection. But we're going to meet each other now, and so are we going to start with Gareth? Gareth, thank you. And you might have a list of who's coming next, and it might just work better if it's seamless and it flows. So, great, it's on the leaflet, the brochure. So if you see your name following and you're ready, then you are welcome to move into that space. If you aren't ready and you need a prompt, I'll do the prompting. And if the prompting doesn't work, we'll just move to the next person. But I'm very happy to hand over to Gareth Hardy. And thank you so very much for standing in this moment and for doing this for us. Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gareth Hardy. I've known Tim for 23 years or so, which equates to roughly half my life. Yeah, I suppose I'm giving something away there. I know Tim didn't want us to cry, and I'm a tax guy by nature, and we're not big criers, but I'm going to try honor this, and also it's really hard for tax guys to write really short stuff, so I've done my absolute best. Tim has both been a friend to me for these 23 years, and he played a really critical part in my business, so much so that he single-handedly wrote the software that runs my company. Without that software, we can't run it. Its name is, we came up with it, it's called Sims, but I'm starting to think maybe it should be called Tim's. All right, I find the most valuable tool I have in life, and something which Tim helped me learn, is to realize that all I have is to be grateful for, the people around me and the experiences around me. And he kind of summed it up. It's like an attitude of gratitude. So I'm grateful to his family for sharing him with me and the business. I know there were many late nights and stress-filled nights. I'm grateful to have been a part of Tim's journey. Those last few months, it has deepened my appreciation of the people that I love and hold dear to my heart. Sorry, it's just really hard. I'm grateful that I had time to have long conversations with Tim about life and its many meanings. I'm grateful to enjoy Tim's great sense of dry humor and his infectious bellowing laugh. I'm grateful that Tim showed me how he lived with courage, patience, compassion, and kindness, and love right to the very end. I'm grateful that Tim was surrounded by those that he loved when he moved on to the big operating system in the sky. He's no doubt debugging that right now. I'm grateful that Tim touched my life in all areas and that of my staff. I know my staff built a really close relationship with him, especially near the end, because they spent so much time with him. And lastly, I'm grateful to everyone who is here today and those that couldn't be here who sent their love and well wishes. Tim, we miss you and we love you very much. Thank you.
Hello everybody. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Pierre van Tonder. I'm the guy that sat paint on the house. I think it took us about a year and a half. I know some of the neighbors as well. I haven't seen you guys yet. The reason, well, first of all, Lindsay asked me to say a couple of words. I jumped at the opportunity thinking that, you know, I knew Tim before the cancer and then a little bit during the cancer. I've never pitched up at the house where he wasn't smiling or happy. He's always had a joke to tell, sometimes a naughty little joke, but it was always appreciated. This might be the shortest speech ever, but the only thing I can really say is Tim, for me and for Wayne that also worked with us there, he's always been kind-hearted, and I think a celebration of his life is necessary because it's sad that he's gone, but what a great guy. I mean, if I had this many people at my funeral, it'll be the greatest day of my life. And obviously, he touched each and every one of you in a certain way. So, that's about it. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. Phew. It's been a very tough few weeks for me. You know, losing someone who really supported me in what I was, the dream that I had from the first day. I came with a proposal to him to tell him that I want to be a scientist one day. So since that day, he was there every step of the way, from first day at varsity until where I am today. He really supported me. So hit me really hard. I had to take some time off work because I think he's the only guy who really got me in what I wanted and what I wanted to do with my life. Like at varsity, he used to call me almost every day just to ask, how is everything going? Are you coping? What do you need? And he really wanted to see me being what I wanted to be, career-wise. And what he did for me actually made, now my family is better off. So me helping him helping me has helped me to help my family. My mom, I didn't know my mom better for years. So I would like to really, I'm very grateful, and I would like to thank him for what he did for me. I'm very grateful. My family, my sister will tell you, what he did to me changed everything at home. And I hope that his beautiful, loving soul rest in peace. Me and the Tebekulu family, we love him so much for what he did for us. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Hardy. I'm a neighbor, number 18 of the Matisse complex where we all live. So I'm privileged to say a few words about Tim, my neighbor and friend for the last few years. First of all, I would say Tim was great fun. He had a wicked, often irreverent sense of humor, which seemed to underpin his view of the world. Tim was clearly generous and very kind. He was gentle, but he could use his razor-sharp wit to tame any display of hubris around him. And I think you'd all sense that. He was highly intelligent, well-educated, but at all times, he remained modest to a T. Tim could find the funny side of almost any situation, drawing upon his vast repertoire of Monty Python skits to remind us of our frailty. While seeming casual in his approach to most things, Tim maintained the bluest, cleanest swimming pool around. It remains a masterpiece of which he was rightfully proud. Tim, of course, loved his music. For our annual Street Braai this year, he produced 4 Bluetooth speakers and a superbly curated playlist, which everyone appreciated. I, for one, wish I could have spent more time with Tim. Pixie and Dan and I are grateful to have known him, if only for these past few years. He occupies a very special place in our hearts.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise. Hi. My surname is Bakeman, but I'm married to Yo, Russell Yo, and I just wanted to also say thank you, Lindsay, for letting me pay some tribute to Tim. I really struggled to write these words. For what does one say when a life so large is suddenly taken away? I met Tim approximately 35 years ago when he lived in Chartwell. Mandy took me to one of Tim's sporting events, which were really liquid affairs with a bit of rounders. Even then, he was an immensely popular man, surrounded by many friends. So many of those are still in the room today. And although I was hopeless, I so wanted to be invited back again, because Tim's gregarious personality, his very sharp wit, and his beguiling charm had all of us coming back for more. Tim loved nothing more than a party. He would agonize over the music. His playlists were legendary. The infamous dress-up parties in Chartwell and later in Bryanston were wild affairs. Tim was a social beast. As I put on the WhatsApp post, I thought it was only the picture that was on there came from me. I think I'm not alone when I say that Tim will be remembered first and foremost for his humor. As Chris said, Tim saw the funny side to everything. He had an unbelievable talent to come up with outrageous turns of phrases which would sum up a situation or a person which would be etched in your memory forever, so that your memory would only be in Tim's words. He loved being there, out there, and found his own jokes hysterically funny. His repertoire was vast. It mattered not if his jokes were dark, slapstick, or pure filth. He knew them all. He was one of the only people who would also crack up over môre pa, môre seun. Wanneer skryf jy eksameseun? Môre pa, môre seun. He loved Afrikaans. He called me mevrou. One of the last moments I shared with Tim was when we drove back from Hermanus. It was only 4 weeks ago. He was visibly in pain and had uncharacteristically said almost nothing at lunch. But when we drove past the magistrate's office in Kleinmond, he couldn't help himself and broke out in a song singing all the verses of Veil Katrien is a naaimachine, a hum. And in our family, no milestone was complete without Tim saying an ode, or paying ode. I called him the bastard bard. Oh, yo, he would start. And on my 40th birthday, the ode started, this time so rudely, "Oh, Frau Yo," and concluded with, "For there is nothing finer than a tighter vagina." I was roasted again on my 50th. But I can't believe there will be no more. Under that extremely funny exterior, however, there was a deeply sensitive man who held profound thoughts. Tim had a very, very serious side. He felt deeply. He was highly intelligent and had an encyclopedic knowledge of a wide array of information. In many respects, he was a dark horse, as much an introvert as an extrovert. Tim embraced life. He was a fabulous travel companion. Whenever something was not going his way, he just made the most of it. When his new shoes gave him blisters climbing Mount Mulunji in Malawi, Tim ditched them to summit in his flip-flops. And when there was nothing on the menu in Eastern Europe except pork, Tim set out on a quest to eat an ice pine a day, which, according to him, would feed his inner swine. His optimism was infectious and made holidays with him such fun. I was so lucky to be on so many with him. The secret to Tim's popularity was borne out by the fact, of course, that there were no less than 60 participants on the WhatsApp group, was that he made an effort with each and every one of us. Tim listened. If there was news, Tim would bear it. He was the glue that kept all his old friends together. He also constantly made new ones, and when he was very ill, he continued to prioritize his friends, even staying in touch with the likes of Solly Noor, who set up a record bar in Louis Trichardt in Tim's distant youth. And notwithstanding that he was clearly in immense pain, nothing stopped Tim from being best man at Dwell's wedding. I know that it was hard for all of you who saw Tim stricken by that mortal frailty. The news came so suddenly. When he told me he was sick on the 20th of April this year, it was like a blow to the apoplexis. My first reaction was, it wasn't real. Not Tim. He was so much larger than life. In fact, it's almost unimaginable to think of life without him. Emma, Wesley, and Lindsay, all our hearts go out to you. Sadly, we will all have to continue our lives without Tim, but our worlds were certainly richer for having had him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Norman, Tim's elder brother, oldest brother, really old. Thanks a lot. I've just been asked to read a couple of messages from people who couldn't be here. Pauline Isaac, who is a cousin. She is the daughter of my dad's younger brother, so it's a first cousin. And they're in Natal somewhere, hey, they live. Okay, here we go. Tim, cousin and lifelong friend rolled into one. I loved you so much. One of my earliest memories is that the two of us were really scared of our paternal It's true. They're scared of our paternal grandmother, who seemed rather uncompromising and strict to us. She was an old German woman. But still, Amma Beck was a terrific woman. We didn't have a chance to get to know her well, as we were both very young when she passed away. I remember several family visits, including the time we all met in Durban, shortly after my dad had passed away. That's Uncle Herbert, her dad. And she was young. He passed away. He was a young man. It was a terrible tragedy as well. I think I have a picture of us on the beach. We often met at family weddings, gatherings of the clan, and funerals. You, Christelle, and I were of similar ages and always gravitated towards each other to celebrate or lend support. Christelle being another cousin. She's here somewhere. I'm so grateful for all the good times we had together and the wonderful group of friends who shared these times with us. Your wonderful sense of humor, hearty laugh, and loyalty made you a very special person and you kept gathering good friends throughout your life. Excuse me. Your love of music led to many a good time too, going to concerts, singing heartily on all occasions. We were even involved in recording a couple of songs you had written to enter into a competition for the Johannesburg Centenary. I didn't know that. Through it all, you were always there for me. You were a party animal of note, however, always prepared to lend a sympathetic ear to anyone who needed it. Lots of love and strength to Lindsay, Emma, and Wes. Go well on your journey now. You will always own a special piece of my heart. Love, Pauline, or Porsche, as you called me. Okay. Then Pam is Phil's wife. Phil is my younger brother, second brother of the four of us. And Pam sent this up. Dear Lindsay, Emma, Wes, Norman, Maxie, Vicky, and Lyndall, Maureen, and friends and family. That's a lot of people. Tim always had the most infectious laugh and the most marvelous sense of humor, and always seemed to be full of bonhomie. In the old days of Springbok Radio, there were some wonderful programs broadcast, and one in particular was, I think, A Little Piece of Cake. I'm not sure. Tim was an exponent of Wouter Maree, Gert Ockert, the manager, and never forgetting Mimsy Meyering and the rest. The laughter it evoked was tummy aching. Phil and Ty, that's their son, have very similar laughs, and at times I have to look around to see if Tim, Norman, and Peter are in the vicinity sharing their Beckism, quips, puns, and jokes. The Beck jokes are something else again. Tim, we miss you, lad. Rest well, my dear Tromfie. Love always, Pam.
Full 3-day trip on the Impton Dairy Ferry without.
Okay.
Hello everyone. I didn't know Tim as well as some of you. I met him only in the early 1980s through the Amanda Martin Rent-A-Crowd agency. But it was only 1988 on the Central African Wayless safari that I got to know how fun and how funny he was. It's not that we didn't want to eat, we just didn't make any plans in that direction. But all-day toiletless bus rides and that awful 3-day trip on the Impton Dairy Ferry without food or toilets were made light by music. We sang every song that Becky knew, and Becky knew all the songs, all of them. Bob Dylan all the way from Lilongwe to Luwandi. See, no food. What not everybody knew was that, music aside, Tim had another great literary talent. He was the John Keats on methamphetamine. Tim could whip up an ode anywhere, anytime, to anyone or anything. A waiter, the moon, a bird. Oh, hardy-da, how awfully doth thou squawk. I remember at my wedding at Grootbos, after my best man Don had finished telling the crowd what an awful person I was, Tim stood up unannounced, cleared his throat, and began. Oh, Wendy, you are so bendy. Oh, Davy, you are so wavy. I wish I still had that piece of paper. I wish we still had Tim with us. But they are both now gone to stardust. We're all stardust. And on Tim's long journey back to seek his star, we wish him all the love and light speed. Cheers, Tim. Good journey.
I'll be standing in and reading for Bruce, and then for our old friends Robbie Dove and Mike Brennan as well, and then one for myself. So Bruce first. In memory of Tim. Tim, I was lucky enough to be one of your closest and oldest of friends. The only way I can express myself is with these lyrics. Thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light that shines on you, believe me. And though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me. I wish today could be tomorrow. The night is dark. It just brings sorrow anyway. Tim, thank you for the days. May you rest in peace. Then, for those who don't know me particularly well, or the others involved in this, there's Tim, Mike, and Robbie Dove. Yeah, that's, there's a whole of us there. We were schoolmates from 1970 together at St Andrews. If Tim had managed to stay around till January, it would have been 50 years. So for all four of us, we could hardly imagine a time when we weren't friends. So this first one is from Robbie Dove. I met Tim when we were both at St Andrews as schoolboys back in 1970, along with Russell Newby and Mike Brennan. We quickly bonded together in what has proved to be a lifelong, intensely deep friendship. And now that Tim is gone, I can only reflect on the wonderful times I had and the privilege of experiencing with Tim. And if you would excuse the ramblings of what must be one of the longest old-time friends, I would like to share with you some of those special times. I think Tim and I were both a bit crazy with our similar sense of humor. We did some amazing trips together in our younger days. While still at school, we hitchhiked all around Zimbabwe, still Rhodesia in those days, and there was a war on. And from the Eastern Highlands, got a ride all the way back home with two guys who drove flat out while using the accelerator with their left foot and hanging the right leg out the window while simultaneously swilling beer. Another special holiday was a sailing trip which lasted nearly a year, sailing onto the Caribbean via Brazil. I still fondly remember the idyllic days sitting on the deck with Tim playing the guitar at sundowner time while watching for the green flash. Every year, we also used to go and camp at Kyalami for the Grand Prix. One year, it is scurrilously claimed that I passed out as the race started. I can't swear for sure, but I don't really believe it's true. The whole weekend camping together was always great fun. Another great memory was going to Tim's flat, cooking up a fantastically hot curry and listening to classical music. When Tim phoned to tell me of his situation, it was a great shock. But what struck me as amazing was his positive attitude. Not for a moment did he lose his sense of humor or determination or to enjoy what time he had left. Our frequent phone calls to each other were full of humor and memories of our time together, and I was struck by something I hadn't really appreciated before, which is his strength of character and bravery in the face of the awful position he was in. So long, Tim. You are a fantastic lifelong mate, and I'll always treasure my memories of you. Love to you, lots of love to you as a family in this difficult time, and I will look forward to meeting up with you once again, once I return. This is from Mike Brennan. Mike and Robbie are both in the States. Mike lives in the States and Robbie's working there at the moment, so that's why they can't be here. This is from Michael. With half-damp eyes, I stared to the room where my friend and I had spent many an afternoon, where we together weathered many a storm, laughing and singing till the early hours of the morn. With hungry hearts through the heat and cold, we never much thought we could get very old. We thought we could sit forever in fun, but our chances really was 1,000,000 to 1. Tim and I have been friends essentially all our lives. As boys and when young men, we spent a lot of time in each other's company, discussing the world, debating philosophy, drinking, smoking our pipes, listening to, and in Tim's case, playing awesome music and surveying the great expanse of the future that seemed to stretch endlessly in front of us. We survived the rigors of boarding school together and went to the same university. We knew each other about as well as it is possible for two human beings to know each other. We took our friendship entirely for granted. We didn't need to work at it or earn it. We had passed that point many decades ago. If we didn't see each other for years, on end it didn't matter. We just picked up exactly where we left off. So I'm going to cope with his loss by pretending Tim is still here. And in a very important sense, he really is, in my mind and heart. Rest in peace, old friend. All my sympathy and support goes out to Lindsay, Emma, and Wes. Tim loved you all so much. this is my way. Not only is Tim a very old friend, but he was also the most influential person in my life. During my sort of growing up years, none of the teachers, parents, or anybody had nearly as much effect on me as Tim. When I was about 16, Tim introduced me to Ayn Rand, which I assume came from via Norman. And through that, I learned the useful things like critical thought and the necessity to maintain a very strict sense of integrity when you go to work and so on. Then we had long discussions of philosophy, politics, and life that became a pattern of our friendship and tended to last till dawn. That's also mixed with a huge amount of wine. All this change of outlook on life and all those discussions led to me developing an outlook and a way and so on that proved to be very, very useful in my career. Now, I had the most wonderful career flying, and I got so much joy and pleasure out of it. And a huge amount of what became possible ultimately comes from the personality that I developed and the way I developed because of Tim's influence. Then in our early 20s, Tim also introduced me to classical and music and opera. Admittedly, our first effort at going to a live opera was 6.5 hours of Tristan and Isolde, which is a bit of a baptism of fire into the world of opera. But despite this, opera has become one of the great passions of my life, and for that, once again, I'm enormously grateful. In short, without Tim's great input in my younger days and all the joy and fun and laughter we had together, my life would have been a much poorer time. As we all know, Tim had a great sense of humor and was always the life and soul of the party. But although he never wanted to discuss anything about it, for a few years around the time he got divorced, Tim seemed to me to just have, when he was being his usual jovial self, it was almost like a background shadow that I seemed to see. There was something that had made him uncomfortable. As I say, he never discussed what it was, and probably would have denied it if I had mentioned it. Then after a bit, I was traveling a lot and I was away a lot and so on, and we didn't see quite as much of Tim as had been previously common. And then, when I'd moved down to the Cape, we went for lunch at Boschendal with Tim and Lindsay for their 10th anniversary. And I saw the light really back in Tim's eyes, fully back in Tim's eyes. Thank you, Lindsay, for loving our friend. It really, really has been wonderful. As we all know, Tim was a fairly substantial procrastinator. I mean, on the day before he wrote his matric chemistry exam, he opened his chemistry textbook and it crackled. He'd never opened it once. He started reading it, and after about an hour, suddenly looks up and says, "You know what, I wish I'd looked at this before, it's quite interesting." He still got fantastic marks, of course. He really had a remarkable intellect. Given this tendency to procrastinate, it also seems fairly appropriate that Tim managed to truly wait till the last possible second to marry Lindsay. However, we're incredibly glad that it happened, and that I'm delighted that he was able to get it done, and the last hours of his life were spent so lovingly with Lindsay, Emma, and Wes. I can hardly remember a time when Tim wasn't my friend. It's terrible to think of the friendship as now over. But for all the joy and laughter Tim has brought to my life, I'm deeply grateful.
I suppose I should be standing up, but that bowled me over a bit. Thank you. Val? Emma, you're right. Yeah, all right, good for you. So we're shifting gear a little bit and we're moving into the family space. And I'm not sure exactly how this is going to transpire either, but we'll pick it up as it goes. I'm really hoping, Wes, you're going to be able to step in there, but no pressure at all. He's shaking his head, and that's really fine. I don't know if Norman's going to be coming back into the space. That's excellent. And then there's a video or two.
There's 2 WhatsApp messages
From Phil. All right. So it's tacky around. If we can have that assistance straight after Emma Is that the way that you want to do it? Yeah, all right. Let me hand over to you. May I just say, with Emma standing here, that I got one or two moments where I saw the most amazing light in Tim's eyes. And believe it or not, they were right at the end. Tim had been getting increasing dosages of morphine, and so he was in and out of presence, of being with us, and that intolerable pain needed to be managed. But he surfaced out of that depth of disconnect, and he saw Emma, and he saw Wes, and he saw Lindsay, and he lit up. I mean, literally lit up. That pain, that confusion kind of just evaporated in the light of his presence when he saw them. So I want to honor him through you and honor you as family and validate these words that you're going to say.
There are infinite numbers between 0 and 1. There's 0.1 and 0.12 and 0.112 and an infinite collection of others. Of course, there's a bigger infinite set of numbers between 0 and 2 or between 0 and a million. Some infinities are bigger than other infinities. Dad, I cannot tell you how thankful I am for our little infinity. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You gave me a forever within numbered days, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for 24 years of you being my dad. I feel the hole in my life constantly, and I look to the future and dread the days that you'll not be there. You'll never see me graduate, buy my first car, come to my first housewarming, walk me down the aisle, or meet your grandchildren. But I know that in each of these special moments, you'll be close to me, be a part of my journey, and be proud of me. I promised you that I will always try to make you proud. I don't know where you are right now since you've died. You believe that when you die, that's it. But I like to think that you're somewhere amazing with all your friends who have passed, like Fluz and Andy, your brother, your parents, all old rock stars and movie stars, all of your old pets, and that you're having a big jaw surrounded by peace and love. Dad, you're in so much pain from the worst type of cancer, and what keeps me going is knowing that you are pain-free and at peace, and that you lived your life to the absolute fullest. You had the most infectious laugh that anyone could hear a mile away. You gave the best bear hugs. You were always telling us stories of your travels around the world, stories of your youth, people you had met, places you had gone, stories about me and Wes that we didn't remember or didn't know, and you always had a joke to tell. You were a big jola. You loved a great big get-together, and you were always the life and soul of the party. You loved all your friends and family and made it your mission before you died that you would phone up everyone and catch up with as many people as possible. I believe that you did this, and it made you so happy. You were always such a great friend, and this is a quality that I'm trying to carry on from you. Dad, your love was unconditional, and that is something I will cherish from your character and take with me forever. Your kindness and generosity will be remembered by all those who had the pleasure of knowing you. Dad, we all know that you absolutely loved your music. I have definitely followed in your footsteps. You used to put my carry cot by the speakers when I was a baby, and you would just have a jaw. This is why I know so much about music. If you know me, you know that I can sing the lyrics to almost any song. That's because of you, Dad. You used to sing and play the guitar. You used to sing me and Wesley to sleep every night before bed, and you were just so happy and so full of life. Holidays with family and our family friends has definitely been a major part of my life, and that I will cherish forever, and I cannot thank you enough for all the precious memories and experiences. Listening to audiobooks and music in the car on the way down to Kenton or Cape Town, waking up to you blasting Bruce Springsteen, swimming in the sea with me riding on your back when I was little, diving under the waves, the sun shining and a big smile on your face. I will always remember you this way. Who am I because you existed? I am a lover, I'm a fighter, I'm very stubborn and a procrastinator like my dad. I have your sense of humor. I'm an absolute music fanatic. I love to take photos just like you did. I'm hardworking because you were always so encouraging and always so proud of me, no matter what I did. Even if I failed, you were like, well done for trying. And lastly, I'm a Beck, and thank you so much for making me part of this amazing family. I cannot begin to imagine not having you, Dad, on the end of the phone or popping around at a moment's notice for advice, a chat, or some tea, always with a rusk. You always listened to me, even when it was the smallest, pettiest things, and gave me advice on everything you could. You taught me about the world, always answered my questions about life, and I will miss not being able to call you up and just ask you how to simply be an adult. Whether it was a big breakfast or an even bigger dinner, you were the best cook. I'll miss coming over for one of your famous Tim curries with a stiff G&T. I'll miss your corny dad jokes and your infinite wisdom. I'll miss our music sessions and your great big laugh. To say I loved you, Dad, would be an understatement, and to say I'm going to miss you would be an even greater understatement. But I am beyond grateful and blessed to have had you as my daddy pie and to be your TikTok or your Emmeline or all the other names you had given me over the past 24 years. Thank you for everything. Cheers to my dad.
Phil sent us a couple of WhatsApp messages. They're quite short, but you'll hear Phil's mellifluous tones very shortly.
I have been privileged to have known Tim for all of his life.
You might hear them in a minute
From
or
his birth in a nursing home
there
in
we go.
Utrecht to his extremely sad demise.
Start over again.
I have been privileged to have known Tim for all of his life. From his birth in a nursing home in Utrecht to his extremely sad demise in Johannesburg. As a boy of 10, I used to get on my bike every day and ride for quite a way to the nursing home to visit Mum and baby Tim. As Tim grew up, I remember him having a great time with brother Peter on the farm Longueval, just outside Utrecht. Tim had a horse called Flaxie, which must have been the slowest horse ever born. I remember a very young Tim at a caravan park in Winkelspruit on the Natal south coast. One day he climbed up a play park slide, but before he could slide down to the ground, he fell and broke his arm. He went back to the caravan and lay perfectly quietly until Mum realized he was seriously injured. Tim enjoyed Kenton-on-Sea hugely and spent a wonderful life at St. Andrews in Grahamstown, commuting frequently to Kenton. When Tim started at Wits University, he stayed in the bachelor flat in Hillbrow. Pam gave him a lot of pots and pans so that he could look after himself. After Tim graduated, he met Janet and they spent a marvelous time on board a boat, which took them all the way to America for a great working holiday. I attended Tim's 21st birthday at Janet's parents' house in Bryanston. We attended Tim and Janet's wedding, also in Bryanston. We got to meet Emma and Wesley shortly after their birth. We also watched them grow before our eyes. We were very privileged to meet up with Lindsay, and we were very glad that they hit it off so well. A couple of years ago, they visited us in Durbanville, and we were able to renew our friendship face to face after a period of 4 years. We were extremely saddened to hear of Tim's final painful illness. However, Tim's marriage to Lindsay the day before he passed on was a triumph of the human spirit over cruel adversity. We salute Tim for living a wonderful and interesting life and deeply mourn his passing. We love you, dear brother, and always will.
Thank you, Phil. Now, Phil sent one more message, and I'm going to predict that only about half of the room will understand it. And those who don't understand it, please ask the half of the room that does understand it.
When Tim was still at school, at St. Stithians College, I believe, he once, with a group of others, had to act as waiters for a political do where John Foster, the late lamented Jolly John, was present. And he tells me that after he heard Foster make a speech, in an appropriate sort of way. And according to Tim, Foster said, "Ek het dit gister gesê. Ek sê dit nou. En ek sal dit môre weer sê."
And there you have it. Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Norman, would you come and close, please?
When Lindsay asked me if I'd say a few words here, I said it would be a huge privilege to do so. It's not an easy job to do, I must say. Tim was such a major aspect of our lives, of our family. And in so many ways, he brought us all so much joy. Before I go further, I just want to again add my thanks to all of you who've come for such a long way, some of you, from Cape Town, from South Coast. No, not from, they didn't come today. And from darkest Africa, it means Boksburg. And of course, don't forget Washington, D.C. Grateful, very grateful gesture on your part, Nicola. I haven't met you yet, but thank you.
Hard not to figure out.
But thank you so much for the efforts. Very much appreciated. If you concerned that you're seeing double now and again, don't be worried because Nicola and Lindsay are actually twins. So there's nothing wrong with you. We've all known him. I mean, he had such an impact on all our lives. I've obviously known him since he was born. And, we were very close in many ways, in all ways, really. Although we were different people, we are very different. He was a very much more outgoing, very adventurous type. I'm a little stick in the mud. And I admired him for this. I really admired his adventurousness and his personality. And there was something so genuine about him, something so honest and honourable, not just honest, honourable with great integrity. And he was really like an epitome of what a man could and should be. And I'm sure that his beloved children have learned precisely that from him. And most of us who were his friends have learnt this from him. You know, you don't realise how much you've loved someone until they're gone. And I think it's a mistake not to tell people that you love them. And otherwise it's too late. And I know, with a man it's difficult, you know, men don't say I love you. But there are ways of showing it. And I'm reminded of the famous song from Iolanthe by Gilbert, W.S. Gilbert, with Lord Chancellor singing, if you go in, he said one of his phrases was, "In for a penny, in for a pound, it's love that makes the world go round." And that's very important. Because love is a feature of human contact, rational, decent human contact. It's all very well and all very easy to be totally materialistic, totally objective about everything, without realizing that there is an emotional backing to everything we do. I remember we were talking, you know, Tim and I spoke a hell of a lot. Not too long ago we were chatting, and I think it's appropriate to mention it here because from what people have mentioned it already, I think it's valid. I was saying, you know, I think that they've been struggling for 2,500 years to decide what's right and wrong, what's good and bad, what's evil, what's all the things. And I said, I think I've cracked it. And I told him what I thought, and blow me down if he wasn't saying the same thing. He'd arrived at the same conclusion. I said, the point is that we can't make it on our own. Not one of us can make it on our own. We all need, when we were babies, we had no chance of survival without parents. But then after that, you're learning from your mates, from your friends, from your family, your extended family, from the community. And then when you learn language, which without language you're not a human, truly not human, without language. You're learning it from the community. The language you speak is that of the community. It's not something that you can learn out of a book, impossible. And I said to him, my point is that you've got to acknowledge that you, as a surviving human being, have a debt. You've incurred a debt. And that debt must be paid. Not to the people who have supported you or given you life, but you must pay it forward. Pay it forward to your own family, your own children, your own whatever. Like Sando was saying how much he was helped by a generous spirit. It's wonderful. And it occurs to me that this is something that is ignored these days. You know, there's the modernist and postmodernist philosophy is all very material, especially the Anglo-American variant of that, where if it doesn't work, if it doesn't make, it's not scientific, it's meaningless. It's a nonsense, because you have a body behind, you have a body of emotions, you have a spirit behind it. And that is important that we don't forget that. And that spirit is one of family connections. Family is really the heart of anybody's survival, of anybody's existence. Tim was a great individualist. He was uniquely individual in so many ways, yet he was uniquely a family man, a community man, a friend. And those two are not separate. They're not different. They are one type of mentality. Because if you're just concerned with yourself, you're half a person, a quarter of a person. And people make themselves miserable, being narcissists and psychopaths and God knows what. There's nothing to them anymore. So Tim embodied this whole atmosphere, this whole way of thinking, way of being. And he's left a hole in our lives. Particularly Wes and Emma and Lindsay. A huge hole in your lives. But that hole can be filled by your memories, by keeping him alive in your minds. Don't ever try to push it to one side. Because the family is a whole. And without a part missing, is a problem. Don't let it miss. Keep it together. Then, what else can I say, really? So really, I'm grateful, and we're all grateful to Tim for being what he was. The courage, the real, incredible courage he had, and strength of will, and the humor. I mean, even in the darkest times, there was always a little bit of a grin, and as has been said, a smile right at you. That's a special kind of man, isn't it? So, and I'm sure we've all got stories to tell about him. I think it would be nice if people can. Some very interesting anecdotes have been mentioned already. I think it would be nice if I've got one. I was late in my teens when he was born, so I was lots older than him, and I was more than a brother, elder brother. And I'll never forget, he was, I think, 6 or maybe 6 or so, and he just started school in Utrecht. And I was home for the holidays from university. And we were walking on the veldt in this farm that was mentioned by Russell, I think. I didn't do that. We were walking in the veldt on that farm, just chatting away. And I was asking him about school. What is he learning? He told me learning this, that, and next thing. I said, tell me, what do they tell you about the world? Is it round or flat? He says, they say it's round. I said, and what do you think? So he's walking and he looks around. No, I think it's flat. It's funny enough how that just stuck with me. Something, just a typical boy, but a human being. I don't have much more to say except thank you again for everything. Let us enjoy our memories of Tim and enjoy everything that he's learned.
We'll see it later. He was wearing a tiara.
Huh?
He was wearing a tiara.
Oh, I see. So that's all.
Well, some exceptional words of wisdom there, Norman, and really, really appreciate that. And in fact, also the encouragement to share anecdote. And in the spirit that I've come to understand your family space and the way you're holding this together, Lindsay, there is an invitation to enjoy hospitality and be together outside afterwards, and there will be more room for anecdote. Anecdotes are really helpful. Story is really good to help us to engage and remember and honor and release. And so, if I may, that's what I'd like to help with now. If I may take just a few more moments. Have you got energy for this? All right. I believe this is important. And the reason I believe this is important is that, as I was alluding to earlier, there is incredible gift available to us in times of grief. And many of us, myself included, prefer to actually suppress those feelings and turn away from them. And there is a way of enabling more life, more connection, more capacity to see, and more capacity to honor the other, as Norman was saying. So the way that I see this, as many of us in this room, as many of us as we are in this room, there are ways of engaging with this dynamic, which we don't really understand in our minds, this place beyond our physicality, and also the spirituality that goes with that. And we need to honor that and respect that. Your view and your journey is as it should be. And so I'd like to make room for you to be here in this moment where you are at in your journey. And hopefully to help you to benefit from Tim's life in an ongoing way. And so here's a little reading, and this comes from a great teacher, a wonderful poet, a bard, a Sufi. He says this: "You would know the secret of death. Open your heart wide then unto the body of life. For life and death are actually one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depths of your hopes and desires lies your secret knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of the spring. Trust those dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. For what is it to die? but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun. And what is it to cease breathing, but to free breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? And only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. Powerful and beautiful. And this is my take on it, and my humble gift to you. I have a particular view of our journey in these bodies. And if I can put it as simply as I know how, I'd like to say that Tim and I probably would have good discussion and maybe have few areas where we might need to go deeper. I think we would agree on a lot. One of the things that I could say is that I don't really know the exact format of our experience beyond these bodies. But what I do get is that each of us has this light, this life, this energy, this pulsating beauty that has a core in us, but that reverberates through every aspect of who we are. And those aspects are almost like concentric circles that move from that core, moving outwards and expressing who we are on many different levels. But your light and that very next concentric circle next to that light is unique. As is Tim's, and I'm using the present tense, and I'll leave it there. Unique, beautiful. There never has been or ever will be one like Tim or you. A treasure, an absolute treasure. However, we do have blockages, and sometimes we don't have too many blockages, but we have smallness of character. I saw a little boy coming for a little hug earlier, and I thought, oh, beautiful soul, as he just put his arms up and received his love. Now that's an expression of purity, and yet he's young. He hasn't got the capacity yet. But it's these experiences, the experiences of joy, of adventure, of doing life together, of laughter, of doing story, of seeing each other, of engaging from the core, that expands us. But it's also when we lose, when we have to face a letting go or a journey of grieving, our possibility of expanding is immense. And the expansion of your person into more expression of who you are, more of the character of who you are, has great value. Great value. Because the more of you there is, the richer your experience will be. And more comes from being able to stand above that which you cannot fix. And so you do not need to fix the grieving process now. But just like body surfing, on the crest of the wave and moving with it, if you could just allow the grief process, each in your own individual space, to work with you, let it do its work. Yet keep your purity and allow more of that to be yours when you are ready. So this is my take on purity. My take on purity is not righteousness or sinless living or having no evil thoughts or none of it. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is any of the blockages that stop the free flow of that life force in you, that energy, that joy, that love, that ability to engage and honor the other and honor the wonder of life. Those blockages are the impure, the things that stop you from being full. Now, this grieving process gives you so much opportunity. I know that it's not easy, and I validate that, I acknowledge it. But as far as possible, and when you are ready, stop standing above the pain, but see what it is and try and let go what you're holding on to. When you are ready, when the time is right, you will know the specific issue, or the specific need, or the specific resentment even, the need to control, or whatever it is. You'll know when to let it go. You'll be able to. And when you do that, and that is removed from you, more of your true self is available. And so, I want to wrap this up. I want to wrap it up by saying, please remember, this man has been the most exceptional gift to you. And we need to feel that. We need to allow ourselves to be enlarged in our inner space with the gratitude. We need to go, yes, Tim, yes, thank you. We respect you. We honor you. We deeply value. And part of that is to remember the way he was present with you. His eyes, his laughter, his singing, his joking, his hugs, his free giving of life and love. All of they're very unique to the way they engage with you. If you, by the way, I'm rushing over a release moment here because I'm just conscious of the fact that we've been together for quite a while and I want to release this. But I want to give you a tool to go with. You're going to have moments where you're going to remember and you're going to go, yeah, wasn't that great? Now, if you can add to that moment, just go one step further with it and just acknowledge you're not going to have that physical presence any longer. And if you can, alongside that awareness, have the strength of being to let go whatever else you need to let go of inside yourself so that your true self can come out, you will become more. And that more is valuable, priceless, beautiful. So I've rushed over a release. Sometimes what we do in a ceremony like this is we have a moment where I lead a contemplation. I gather it's not going to be appropriate. So I want to end it here, but I want to honor you, each one of you as well, particularly those whom I know or have come to know briefly, and really respect you. And just long for this journey to do its work for you. You're worth it, beyond what I can even conceptualize. May your life be full in the wake of this beautiful soul. Thank you for letting me say this. We're going to wrap this up now. You've got some time outside, and I believe that we're going to be ushered out, I think, a little bit by the staff, or we're just going to arrive. I gather that the Beck family doesn't do things conventionally or according to that disciplined approach. There is not much Germanic in the way you want to do this. So let's just storm that outside place and be there and enjoy it and enjoy each other. And more story, refreshment. And Lindsay, thank you. Emma, Wesley, your hospitality and the way you've held this together. Deep respect. Thank you, everybody. All the best.